The story takes place in an apocalyptic future, 20 years after a mysterious bug disables all computers. Society collapses because people depend too much on technology. Power grids fail, order disappears, and cities build walls to protect themselves, splitting the population. Those inside the walls try to maintain order, while the ones forced outside are mostly criminals and dangerous individuals, a constant threat to society. There is another group of people, neither part of the cities nor fully exiled. They are called milkmen, and John Doe is one of them. These milkmen are couriers who travel between walled cities, delivering important packages. They face constant danger from scavengers, whom John calls vultures. These vultures attack travelers to rob and kill them, making every journey risky. John's life takes a turn when he arrives at New San Francisco. He is surprised when Raven, the city's COO, calls him inside the walls. This is a rare and important invitation for someone like him. John feels unsure about her motives, and his instincts are proven right when Raven reveals her request. She wants him to deliver a package to New Chicago.
The package is in New Chicago.
A distant city far to the east. The route is treacherous and the journey too dangerous for anyone to undertake alone.
No, look, I'm sorry. New Chicago is too far and it's too risky.
Sit.
Raven knows this and offers John something extraordinary. She gives him a tour of New San Francisco and promises him citizenship if he completes the mission. Life inside the walls is stable and orderly, much like the world before the collapse. For John, who has only known hardship, this is a chance for redemption and a place to call home. Moved by the offer, John agrees to the task. Before he sets off, Raven invites him to a family dinner. Her husband, Noah, joins them with their baby, Dove. The sight of the baby deeply affects John. He has never seen a baby before and feels a mixture of curiosity and sadness. It reminds him of his parents, who died during the collapse. He often looks at their photograph to remember them. John begins his journey with a strict deadline. He has 10 days to complete the task and return. If he is late, the deal is off. He does not know what the package contains, adding to the tension. Unknown to John, there is a hidden truth behind Raven's offer. Noah is not her husband, and Dove is not their child. The dinner is part of a calculated plan to manipulate him into accepting the mission. At the same time, in Nevada, Quiet and her brother Loud are captured by Agent Stone. Stone follows a harsh ideology that small crimes lead to bigger ones. He forces the siblings to make a terrible choice. One must die to save the other.
Take your own life.
Loud sacrifices himself to save Quiet, leaving her broken and alone. John stops at Tommy's place, an old friend, to get a map for his journey. When Tommy hears that John is heading east to New Chicago, he becomes nervous.
New Chicago.
He warns John that the route is unlike anything he has faced before and extremely dangerous. Despite the warning, John decides to continue, knowing the reward is worth the risk. Just as John approaches Las Vegas, he encounters Quiet. She stops him at gunpoint, blocking his path. John notices small details about her missing finger, and the jacket she wears, which likely belonged to her brother. He realizes she is in pain and grieving. Their tense encounter is interrupted by Sweet Tooth, the ruthless ruler of Vegas, who approaches them in his menacing van. John tries to persuade Quiet to join him temporarily, knowing they both face great danger. John and Quiet decide to work together to take on Sweet Tooth. However, the guns they point at his van are not loaded. Sweet Tooth quickly realizes this. Acting fast, Quiet brings around John's car, his beloved Evelyn, and John jumps in. Quiet tries to drive, but soon discovers that only John knows how to operate Evelyn. They switch seats, and a tense car chase begins. Sweet Tooth gains the upper hand during the chase by puncturing one of Evelyn's tires. This causes the car to lose control and crash straight into a building. Before the outcome is revealed, attention shifts to Stu and Mike, two wanderers. They are captured by the Butchers, a group of cannibals who kill and eat their victims. As the Butchers prepare Stu and Mike for their gruesome fate, Agent Stone and his team arrive. They ambush the Butchers and kill them all, saving the two wanderers. Stone is impressed by their clean history and gives them a choice. They can either go on their way or join his mission to restore law and order to what remains of the United States.
Join us, bringing law and order back to the divided states of America.
Stu and Mike choose to join Stone's team. Back at the casino, John works on repairing Evelyn's punctured tire. Quiet offers no help and betrays him when she sees Sweet Tooth approaching. She leaves John alone to face the clown. Sweet Tooth is far stronger than John and beats him severely. In a strange moment, Sweet Tooth plays some music he calls kill music, but instead of continuing the attack, he and John end up jamming together to a Cisco track. Sweet Tooth spares John's life, but insists that John must attend his opening show later that night. Meanwhile, Stone's new recruits, Stu and Mike, are put through an initiation. Their task is to protect a broken-down supply truck from seagulls, desperate survivors trying to steal supplies. Stu hesitates when the survivors approach, unsure about killing them, but Mike completes the job without hesitation. This act shows how cold and ruthless Stone's version of law and order has become. His team kills those who are simply trying to survive. At the casino, Sweet Tooth reveals more about himself to John. John admits he has amnesia and no memory of his identity or past. Sweet Tooth explains that he has been alone in Vegas since the apocalypse. He appears increasingly unhinged, even referring to a brown paper bag as Harold, his best friend. Sweet Tooth then shows John that he has captured Quiet and locked her behind glass. He plans to starve her.
See, I was gonna starve her, watching the life slowly drain from their eyes. Kind of my artistic process.
However, when John notices she has the keys to Evelyn, he convinces Sweet Tooth to release her, suggesting it would be better to have a larger audience for his performance. The performance is long and dull, dragging on for hours. Sweet Tooth eventually confronts John, accusing him of not paying attention. He demands to know what John liked about the show. John's response is unconvincing, and Sweet Tooth prepares to strike him with a machete. At this moment, Quiet speaks up for the first time. She criticizes the performance harshly, indirectly encouraging John to do the same. Sweet Tooth appreciates the honesty and lets them go unharmed. Inspired to take his act on the road, Sweet Tooth burns down his arcade. Quiet and John make a deal. He will drop her off where she needs to go, and then they will part ways. As they continue their journey, they reach an unexpected checkpoint run by Stone's team. Although John tries to navigate the situation carefully, Quiet loses control when she sees Stone's deputy. She gets out and tries to shoot him, but is tased by Mike. Moments later, John is also tased by Stu. John now has only 9 days left to complete his mission. The story shifts to a flashback from 2002, when the mysterious bug shuts down all electronics. A mall cop, who is later revealed as Agent Stone, confronts 2 women frozen in shock as chaos spreads around them. Supplies are running out, and the situation is rapidly deteriorating into survival of the fittest. In the present, John and Quiet are arrested and taken to a facility reminiscent of a DMV. Here, open road licenses are issued, and anyone driving without one is sent down the red line, a path leading to a horrifying fate called the Bowl of Screams. For now, John and Quiet are on the purple line, a less severe option. While cleaning out Evelyn, Stu finds John's photo of his family. He realizes John is a good man, someone who has managed to keep his moral compass intact despite meeting Stone. Mike, however, has changed drastically, becoming more ruthless and cold-hearted. Meanwhile, Shepard, Stone's deputy, searches Evelyn and discovers a customized map. The map is designed to avoid all checkpoints and outposts, a detail that alarms Stone. He becomes suspicious and eager to learn the identity of the map maker. Stone also reveals his plans to build a dam blockade near the facility, which is located on a river. As John tries to negotiate their release, Quiet disrupts the process by spitting on Stone, ensuring they remain captive for longer. Stone mocks them and grows more determined to uncover the map's creator. Another flashback confirms Stone's identity. During the early days of the collapse, Stone's neighbors, Margie, who is pregnant, and Rick rob him for supplies. They justify their actions, claiming survival is now an individual fight. Back in the present, Mike and Stu hand John and Quiet forms to fill out. As punishment, the facility blares an obnoxious Barbie song at full volume. The duo is subjected to bizarre tests, including an eye test mixed with mace and waterboarding. Despite the torture, John refuses to reveal who made the map. Stone decides to send them down the red line, but not before ridiculing Loud's sacrifice for Quiet. As they wait to face their punishment, John opens up about his family. He admits he no longer remembers his parents' faces, no matter how hard he tries. He explains that completing this job would help him feel like he belongs somewhere again. When their turns come, John and Quiet are led down a hallway that ends at a cliff. Stu is instructed to make them jump, but John and Quiet manipulate him emotionally. Stu breaks under pressure and helps them escape. They plan to leave together, but Quiet suddenly disappears to avenge her brother. A flashback shows Stone's first encounter with violence. A restaurant owner asks him for help against goons occupying his establishment. Stone confronts them alone, armed with his father's gun. However, they turn out to be locals trying to feed their families. When one insults and berates him, Stone snaps and shoots them all. This moment marks his transformation into the merciless figure he is today. In the present, Quiet kills Shepard by using a stolen gun and brutally bashing his head in. Meanwhile, Mike notices damaged zippers on the holding area and raises an alarm. As John tries to escape, he realizes Evelyn's battery is dead because someone left the headlights on. He asks Stu to push the car while the alarm blares in the background. Quiet returns, and together they manage to get Evelyn moving, almost. Evelyn's faulty trunk hits Stu on the head, knocking him unconscious. With no other choice, John and Quiet leave him behind. On the road, Quiet reveals something she saw in Stone's office, a sanctuary city in the Midwest, Topeka. This city, Stone's hometown, appears to have remained unaffected by the apocalypse. John drives while Quiet sits beside him in silence, staying true to her name. The quiet makes him drowsy, and he starts to nod off at the wheel. To stay awake, he tries to explain a joke to her, but she doesn't react. Suddenly, large rigs surround the car from all directions, forcing them to stop. They are taken into one of the trucks. Inside, they meet Watts, the leader of the rigs known as the Convoy. Watts explains that she stopped them because someone wants to speak with John, that someone is her granny. Granny, an elderly and frail woman, tells John that her health is failing, and she needs special medicines to ease her pain. To make the task worthwhile, Granny offers to upgrade Evelyn with weapons and equipment, restoring what the lawmen had previously removed. John accepts the deal. During their conversation, he learns that Watts once pushed someone called the pharmacist off a truck. This revelation adds tension to the mission ahead. As John and Quiet drive toward the destination, they begin to notice unsettling signs linked to what Granny referred to as holy men. These signs suggest they might be dealing with a radical cult. When they reach the pharmacist's place, Amber, a woman who runs the facility, greets them. She offers tea, but the tea is poisoned. John and Quiet become paralyzed, realizing this may be connected to Watts' actions. Amber initially believes they are members of the Holy Men. However, when she examines the list of medicines Granny requested, she understands they mean no harm. She restores their health and reveals her backstory. Amber admits to poisoning Watts out of jealousy. The two were once in love, but Watts did not make space for Amber in her life. John and Quiet leave with the medicines, but they are ambushed on the way by the Holy Men, a violent biker gang. They take shelter in an abandoned cinema until the gang moves on. While hiding, John finds a film called Blankman and plays it for Quiet. Since the movie has no sound, they invent dialogue and share popcorn to pass the time. During this moment, Quiet opens up about a memory with her brother. She recalls how he once snuck her into a theater, where she watched him laugh and felt happy seeing his joy. This creates a rare bond between her and John. However, the next morning, the bond is strained when John washes Loud's jacket. Quiet becomes upset because the remnants of her brother's memory are gone. They return to the convoy with the medicine. Watts explains that the medicine is meant to ease Granny's suffering in her final days. Granny shares that she wants to pass away on her own terms, a rare luxury in their harsh world. As a final gesture, Granny gives Quiet her sutra and gives Watts a flower from Amber. The flower has no medicinal value, but is Granny's way of encouraging Watts to reconcile with Amber. Watts gathers the riggers to honor Granny, whose full name is Kathy Strumpton. She was once a top real estate agent in Boca Raton before the apocalypse. The group pushes Granny's car onto the road and blows it up as a sign of respect. At the after-party, Watts contacts Amber, taking Granny's advice to mend their relationship. John apologizes to Quiet for washing Loud's jacket, acknowledging her pain. Both agree they do not wish to stay with the convoy. They head back on the road toward uncertain futures, with John unaware that Quiet has secretly taken some of Granny's medicine with her. John and Quiet argue as they drive. John is upset about a vulture stealing his CDs, so he ran the vulture off the road to get them back. Quiet is angry at his recklessness. Despite their tension, they continue toward Topeka, where Quiet plans to take revenge on Stone. Before they leave for Topeka, Quiet suggests they have a drink. Secretly, she adds some of Granny's medicine to John's drink. John falls unconscious, and Quiet decides to leave him behind. She takes off on foot, heading to Topeka alone. Meanwhile, Stone sits in his headquarters in Topeka, which is in perfect condition. He practices a new word, loquacious, while Jaime and Carl, a brother-sister cop team, report that they still haven't caught the fugitives. Stone is angry at their relaxed attitude and orders them to capture Quiet and John by Friday night. Elsewhere, Sweet Tooth, who has taken his chaotic show on the road, arrives at the dam. A guard asks for his open road license, but Sweet Tooth responds by shoving a grenade in the guard's mouth and blowing him up. Someone drags John's unconscious body off the road. Meanwhile, Quiet sneaks into Topeka in a control vehicle, bypassing the heavy security. Once inside, she attacks the officers in the vehicle. As she continues driving, she begins to doubt herself. She imagines her dead brother, Loud, accusing her of failing and saying she is doomed to end up like him. John wakes up in a creepy situation. The man who dragged him off the road is a pervert who thought John was dead. John grabs a knife but misses when he throws it. Despite this, John overpowers the man and kills him. John finds a letter that Quiet left for him. In it, she confesses that she lied about Topeka being a sanctuary city. She explains that she left him behind because she didn't want him to risk his life. She encourages him to become the first milkman without an expiration date, but John is determined to find Quiet and help her kill Stone. Quiet, still struggling with her doubts, imagines Loud beside her in the vehicle. She drives forward, but Stone and his officers, Jaime and Carl, spot her. She manages to escape them for now. At the dam, Sweet Tooth has killed the lawman and freed the prisoners. Among them is Stu, who recognizes Mike hiding behind some cartons. Stu chooses not to expose Mike, showing his loyalty. Sweet Tooth convinces Stu to join him, and Stu agrees. Sweet Tooth gets excited when Stu tells him about more outposts in the Midwest, where he could free prisoners and gain more followers. Many freed prisoners decide to travel with Sweet Tooth. Quiet's hallucination of Loud scolds her for wasting the second chance he gave her. She realizes she is making a mistake and prepares to leave Topeka, but Stone contacts her over the radio and gives her a choice: face him now or come to his office for a chat. Quiet decides to confront him at the office. Stone and Quiet's confrontation turns into a car battle at a theme park. Stone uses a missile to bring Quiet's car to a halt, preparing for a final attack. Before he can strike, John arrives and fires the red missile that Watts had gifted him, destroying Stone's car. John rushes to Quiet, who is now motionless, and picks her up in his arms. Quiet remembers a time when she and Loud worked at the OC farmlands. She reveals that she has secured a bondage contract with a beach house owner. The contract promises freedom after 4 years of work. Quiet convinces Loud to take a similar deal, believing it could help them start a new life. In the present, John brings Quiet to an Astral diner in Omaha. They argue because John isn't sure Stone is dead and Quiet is frustrated. In the middle of their fight, they suddenly kiss and end up becoming physical in the diner's ball pit. Another flashback shows Quiet and Loud 3 years into their OC contracts. Quiet's life has turned into a nightmare. Her keeper abuses her, treating her like a slave. This is when Quiet begins to speak less and eventually goes mute. Loud is not much better off, running the counter in a diner under a cruel manager. The manager threatens him with a knife when he defends Quiet. The situation escalates when a shooter, another keeper like Quiet, goes on a rampage. She announces that OC does not honor its contracts. Even after her 4 years are up, she remains in servitude. The Reaper squad quickly kills her. Loud comforts Quiet in the diner's back room, trying to cheer her up despite their grim reality. Back in the present, Quiet tries to leave while John is asleep. However, she cannot bring herself to go. When John wakes, he argues that her plan to kill Stone is not a good idea. Their conversation is interrupted by a sudden storm. John recognizes it as a Watkins storm, with dangerous lightning strikes hitting the ground. As they rush to shelter, Quiet points out that Evelyn is left outside and could be destroyed. John risks going back into the storm to move Evelyn into a shed. He succeeds, but gets injured by a lightning strike. Since the storm will last for a while, John and Quiet play a lighthearted game to pass the time. They talk about their pasts. John shares his belief in ocean ghosts and UFOs, while Quiet recalls a visit to Disneyland as her happiest memory. Their playful conversation leads to another intimate moment in the ball pit. During their time together, John suggests that Quiet come with him to San Francisco to start a new life. Quiet becomes upset, fearing that it will be no different from their bondage contracts at OC. She feels guilty for Loud's death, believing her push for a better life led to his sacrifice. When John tries to comfort her, she lashes out, saying he wouldn't understand because he never had a family. A flashback reveals how Quiet saved Loud at the OC diner. The manager had planned to hand Loud over to the Reapers, but Quiet killed the attackers to protect her brother.
What the?
In the present, both John and Quiet struggle to sleep. Quiet, feeling restless and hungry, goes to the kitchen but cannot get the gas to work. John wakes up and helps her replace the gas. Quiet breaks down, confessing that she can't let go of the pain of losing her brother. John holds her as she cries, and they share a quiet meal before finally resting in the ball pit. The next morning, John finds Quiet missing. Worried, he looks for her and discovers her standing by Evelyn. Quiet, having let go of her obsession with Stone, agrees to travel with John to New Chicago. The story flashes back to 1989, on the set of a sitcom called Two Scoops, which has been renamed Billy and Two Scoops. Marcus Kane, the original star of the show, is furious about the addition of Billy, a golden retriever, to the title. When filming begins, Marcus is overshadowed by the dog who steals the spotlight. Consumed by rage, Marcus grabs a pair of sewing needles and kills Billy in front of the cast and crew, horrifying everyone. Back in the present, John and Quiet arrive at the gates to pick up the package. A moat blocks their path, but they discover that a stone triggers the entrance. As they navigate the eerie hallway inside, a voice guides them, which John believes belongs to Calypso, a well-known figure in the region. They collect the package and leave. To avoid Topeka, they decide to take a longer route heading north. Meanwhile, Agent Stone receives a radio update from Carl. Sweet Tooth has attacked 3 more outposts, freeing all prisoners and moving toward a significant destination, Blackfield Asylum. Sweet Tooth has unfinished business there. On their journey, Quiet and John stop at a pit stop called Nut House, a common place for milkmen to refuel and eat. There, they meet Mary, John's former girlfriend, who reveals her jealousy over John leaving her in the past. The bartender, Mr. Slam, tells Quiet that Mary is one of the best milkmen in history. Elsewhere, it is revealed that Marcus Kane is Sweet Tooth. After the dog incident, Marcus was sent to Blackfield Asylum, where he spent 10 years and formed many connections. Stu learns the full truth about Marcus. He murdered his dog, Co-Star, locked his parents in an asylum cell during the apocalypse, and left them to die. Marcus emotionally confesses to their skeletons that he hated the sitcom and only did it because his parents forced him to make money for them. Back at the asylum, Marcus and Stu find the prisoners have been killed by Stone and his officers. Stone's team shoots at Marcus and Stu, presuming them dead. However, Mike, among the shooters, seems to have purposely missed. At Newth House, John reveals to Mary that this will be his last run. He shares his plans to settle in New San Francisco. Mary spreads the news to the other milkmen, which John cleverly uses to his advantage. He asks the group, "Who should I give this package to?" This sparks a fight among the milkmen, with some of Mary's gang attacking John and Quiet. The chaos narrows down to a confrontation between Quiet and Mary. Quiet holds a blade to Mary's throat. Mary admits her jealousy because John didn't ask her to come with him. Quiet spares Mary at first, warning her not to let revenge ruin a second chance at life. However, Mary doesn't relent, forcing Quiet to stab her in the chest.
Behind you!
At the asylum, Stu saves Mike's life by convincing Marcus that Mike could help them find Stone. Back at the pit stop, John and Quiet have a breakthrough in their relationship. John hands Quiet the keys to Evelyn, a gesture of trust and partnership. As they leave, Pit Viper, another milkman from the bar, sends Stone a text, revealing the duo's destination. John's amnesia leaves him with no memory of his parents or his past. His earliest memory is waking up alone in his parents' car during a violent Watkin storm. A woman approaches, steals the car, and leaves him stranded. As a child, he learns to fend for himself. One day, while picking fruit from a tree, he falls into an abandoned car hidden under a thick canopy of leaves. Car, which he later names Evelyn, has a rotting corpse inside. John removes the body and uses the car for shelter. Inside, he finds some money, food, and a few adult magazines. However, the car won't start because the battery is likely dead. Time passes, and one day, John encounters 2 cannibals in the jungle. He quickly hides in the car and desperately tries to start it. Miraculously, the car comes to life, allowing him to escape. This moment cements Evelyn's importance to him. He later finds a nameplate in a junkyard and uses scavenged parts to restore and personalize the car. In the present, John and Quiet face a new problem. While Quiet is driving, she discovers John's photo hidden in the visor. It accidentally slips from her hand and falls into a field. Though they retrieve the photo, their car, Evelyn, is stolen by a group of holy men. John is devastated and refuses to speak to Quiet for an hour. Quiet pleads with him, asking for a chance to help recover the car. John reluctantly agrees.
Then let me help you find her this time.
They disguise themselves using masks from dead bodies and infiltrate the holy men's gathering. The group is a cult indulging in drugs, alcohol, and wild preaching. Their leader, the preacher, explains that he stopped believing in God when the apocalypse began. Instead, he started worshiping the divinity he sees in men and women. The preacher asks his followers to present him with gifts. Most offer ordinary items, but one member presents Evelyn. The car captures the preacher's attention. Overcome with anger, John reveals himself and challenges the preacher to a duel. The cult assumes John will lose as the preacher is a physically imposing figure. During the duel, Quiet slips away and steals another car. As expected, John loses and is locked in a cage while the cult's festivities reach a frenzied climax. Quiet breaks into the cage and urges John to escape with her. However, John chooses to stay and rescue Evelyn instead. Quiet drives away, devastated. She looks back and witnesses a massive explosion, assuming John has died. Heartbroken, she feels abandoned, believing she has lost yet another companion. John survives but is left alone as the holy men pack up their camp and leave with the preacher. He walks through the compound, staring longingly at the scattered remains of Evelyn. The car, which saved him as a child, holds a deep emotional bond for him. Sweet Tooth continues his cruel treatment of Mike by placing an electric shock collar around his neck and treating him like a dog. Marcus forces Mike to crawl on all fours, shocking him whenever he disobeys. When Marcus leaves, Mike tries to reason with Stu, reminding him of their long friendship. Mike warns Stu that Marcus is dangerous and won't hesitate to harm him when things get serious.
And you are wrong about that clown. He's gonna kill a lot of people.
However, Stu appears conflicted, caught between fear of Marcus and loyalty to Mike. Later, Stu suggests to Marcus that they start a new life together, since Stone believes they are dead. Marcus dismisses the idea entirely. Instead, he insists on heading to the dam for revenge. As they prepare, Marcus pours gasoline over his head and tells Stu to ignite it when the time comes. He also paints faint clown makeup on their faces, adding to his chaotic persona. Meanwhile, Quiet is still carrying the package and has just 48 hours left to complete the delivery. While driving, she abruptly steers off the road to avoid hitting a dead deer. As she struggles to get the car back on the road, a vulture confronts her. He talks about his ex, Tasha, and other random topics, but eventually points a gun at her. Quiet is moments away from being killed when Watts and Amber arrive in their rig and save her. Quiet is shocked to see Watts and Amber, and even more surprised when Watts reveals that John was the one who found them. He knew Quiet would be following the map and wanted to ensure she was safe. Quiet is deeply upset with John and refuses to speak to him. Watts explains that Stone and his men have retreated to the dam because of Marcus's attacks on their outposts. She also reveals that the only way to New San Francisco is through the dam, but offers good news. There is an opening in the blockade that will allow safe passage. Watts offers to drive them to the opening and provide a working car for the rest of their journey. At the dam, Stone gathers his men and plans a trap to capture Quiet and John. He vows to end the Mute and the Milkman once and for all. Quiet and John work on repairing an old car in the rig for their next journey. During this time, Quiet angrily confronts John about his betrayal. She accuses him of prioritizing Evelyn over their partnership.
If it mattered, you would have come with me instead of choosing to stay with a f***ing car.
John tries to explain his motivations and gifts her a signature throwblade, symbolizing his respect for her skills. He admits that they make each other stronger and that he can't imagine his life without her after this journey. Quiet seems moved but doesn't immediately respond. Quiet and John quickly armor up the repaired car and equip it with heavy weaponry. They name the new car Roadkill. Watts and Amber drive their rig alongside Roadkill, heading toward the blockade. The area is eerily quiet, but as they approach, they spot a fleet of cars surrounding a large compound. It's a trap. Stone's men are lying in wait inside the cars, ready to ambush them. An epic showdown begins. Roadkill and the rig face off against Stone's fleet. Sweet Tooth joins the fray with his chaotic energy, bringing his twisted revenge into the fight. Watts also unleashes her beloved F1 car, Twister. The final showdown begins as Stone and his men clash with John, Quiet, and their allies. Explosions and gunfire tear through the compound, creating chaos. Amid the tension, Quiet finally clears up John's misunderstanding about Jell-O. John had believed it was a way to say goodbye, but Quiet explains it was simply dessert. Sweet Tooth initially fights on John and Watts' side, taking out several of Stone's men with his usual violent flair. However, his psychopathic tendencies soon emerge, and he announces his intention to kill everyone. This makes Stu and Mike, who are reluctantly stuck with him, increasingly anxious. Watts drives Twister with incredible skill, dodging attacks and even saving Roadkill from a missile launched by Stone. Meanwhile, Mike finally acts on his fear of Sweet Tooth and points a gun at him. Sweet overpowers Mike, putting him in a headlock, and orders Stu to kill his friend. Instead, Stu turns on Sweet Tooth, shooting him and escaping the truck with Mike. Sweet Tooth, though injured, survives and leaps onto Stone's car. As he tries to regain control of the situation, Stu and Mike run him over with their vehicle. Left behind are Sweet Tooth's iconic clown mask and his brown paper bag friend, Harold. Roadkill speeds toward the final stretch, but Stone chases them down. Quiet takes the wheel and decides to face Stone head-on. She turns the car around and drives straight at him. At the last moment, she deploys a ramp from the bumper, sending Stone's car flying into the air and crashing. Stone survives the crash and holds a gun to Quiet's head. He justifies his actions by explaining how, after the apocalypse, those who mocked him as a mall cop begged him for safety and order. He claims his brutal methods were necessary to bring peace to the streets. Quiet sees through his justification, dismissing him as a lonely man, desperate for control. She uses this moment to distract him, while John regains consciousness. John throws Quiet's blade with perfect aim, striking Stone in the face. It is a satisfying redemption for John, who finally gets his throw right. Quiet spares Stone's life, leaving him with a gun and the choice to die slowly from the blade or take his own life. As Roadkill drives away, a gunshot echoes, implying Stone has chosen the latter. John and Quiet finally reach the gates of New San Francisco. Raven greets them and accepts the package, granting John citizenship. However, she denies Quiet entry. John becomes emotional and refuses the offer, but Quiet pushes him to accept it. To ensure he goes inside, she shoots him non-lethally, forcing the guards to take him in. As Quiet leaves, she receives a package to deliver to San Diego, but throws it into a crowd of homeless people outside the gates. Raven reveals to Mike, her security officer, that she has bigger plans for John. She excluded Quiet to avoid complications as she manipulates John for a future task. The package John risked his life to deliver is revealed to be ice cream, though it's not the flavor Raven wanted. John begins adjusting to life inside New San Francisco, but deeply misses Quiet, feeling incomplete without her. Raven's sinister plan unfolds as it's revealed that everyone around John, his friends, pedestrians, and even his new girlfriend Diane, is secretly spying on him and reporting to Raven. Meanwhile, Quiet becomes a Robin Hood figure, stealing deliveries from milkmen and distributing them to the homeless. John eventually tells Raven he no longer wishes to stay.
I'm leaving.
Before he leaves, Raven shows him photos of his family, revealing she has uncovered his past. He learns he had parents and a little sister, but even this doesn't sway him. John declares that Quiet is his home and he must find her. Raven orders her guards to detain him and presents him with a new challenge. She demands he compete in a deadly racing tournament featuring the best drivers from around the world. The goal is simple: survive. Elsewhere, someone compiles a list of drivers for the tournament, including Watts, Mary, and the Preacher. John must win to grant Raven her heart's desire. Quiet, meanwhile, is stopped by a gang of masked mercenaries. One claims to be John's sister and demands to know his whereabouts. Stu and Mike have gone into hiding, away from Sweet Tooth's chaos. They live quietly with fake plastic girlfriends, relieved to be free. But their peace is short-lived. Sweet Tooth, alive and vengeful, reappears. He kills Mike and takes Stu hostage, proving once again that Sweet Tooth is far from finished.